And I would like to welcome with us Wojtek Makowski, Orange Director of CPE Ecosystem and Platforms.
Thank you, guys. Is it working? Yeah. Okay, so this topic was already discussed, presented several times during the last 3 days, including today. So I believe that everybody now understands and is convinced that the gateway is the next software platform. But maybe there were some people that were not listening attentively. So I will repeat it again and go a little bit more into depth about this topic. Okay, so at first, a little bit of history. You already saw this slide with some less details in the presentation of Sophie and Lens. Those that are as old as I am remember those times when we had, those tens of different home computers, each having its own operating system and a few applications that were developed usually by the computer manufacturer. And this is how it worked. All those guys were competing. It was actually innovation. But then something happened, what we can call right now a turning point. It was the IBM with PC and the MS-DOS as the operating system. And that changed everything. Basically, starting from that point, the things became standardized. And the effect is that it brings a huge boost in software innovation. So there is no more the case that you have just a few apps for your computer. The number of apps is just unlimited. What is more important is that it opened the ecosystem to third-party software developers with a sustainable business model. And this is how a lot of big success stories started in 1980s. Okay, the people I mentioned on this slide, as Norton, Adobe, Citrix, etc., they were really stars of that time. A lot of software, for example. You know how big company it was, how successful it was, and all that was possible because of the fact that the PC with MS-DOS and then Windows became a standardized software platform. So the market consolidated around it. Of course, there is another platform that was very successful, which was Macintosh with macOS. And basically that's how it goes from that time. This innovation was so huge at that time. I like this idea that Time magazine, instead of having another person of the year, they chose in 1982 to have a machine of the year. It's just to underscore how big innovation it was. And innovation was the software platform that is standardized and third parties can come and develop their businesses on top of it. For the younger ones, we had exactly the same stuff again with the smartphone. Okay, you remember all those operating systems of different manufacturers, etc., different versions, never compatible, etc., etc. And then something happens, another turning point. There is iPhone with the idea of the App Store, followed very closely by Android. And once again, after this initial chaos, we go into the consolidation. We have two standardized software platforms that bring business conditions and technological conditions for another huge boost in software innovation with new winners, with new success stories. So we see this pattern with these two examples, and this is what was shown in the presentation of Sophie and Lance. The question is, why was it so successful? And the answer is because it created what we call a software platform. But the meaning of software platform is very specific here, because sometimes platform is just a kind of product. We don't really know. But here what we call a software platform, this is about the platform approach. That is something that is absolutely key in the digital economy, because platforms, they are of different types. They are the most powerful business model that exists. If you look at the most valuable companies in the world, the most successful unicorns, etc., they all are about one or another type of platform. A software platform is a subset of those. Okay, so this is really important. The big success stories now are around platforms. And what is a platform? It's quite simple. It's a flexible digital infrastructure that leverages at scale, of course, that's very important, complementary third parties. And they together create a new value. So the idea is that instead of trying to do everything by yourself, your platform approach enables third parties to do the things and to meet some others. This is how it works. So the economics of such an approach are very successful because the value goes to everybody. The one that provides the platforms gets it part of the value. All those that create on top of it get the right value too. And those that consume the things give something that is very appealing and valuable too. So that's how the platforms work. Now the question is, what are the conditions to have a successful software platform? So now I'm reducing the scope just to the software platforms. And that two different things. First of all, the technology. The standardization is absolutely key. Okay, so we really need to have something that separates some basics, exposes some APIs that anybody can leverage on top of it. In more economical terms, it must enable a zero marginal cost. What it means basically that any additional copy of your software, to produce it, it costs zero. You know that right now, if you want to introduce a software innovation that somebody can have in the field, then you need to make a huge work of integration with each operator, with each gateway type this operator has, etc. So the businesses are not scalable today. It costs too much to integrate that at the end, nobody wants to take the risks, because when you are introducing something, there's always a risk that it will not work. So if just to see whether it works, it costs you hundreds of thousands of dollars, there is a huge chance that the decision will not be positive and nobody will try. So this is absolutely key to understand. The zero marginal cost is a key aspect to create a successful platform. There is a requirement for certification, because it's easy to say it's the same platform, but is it really the same? If you look at all those that are successful, there is always a way to verify that the things are as expected, that we don't fragment. That's another key element for success. We cannot allow that what is expected to be common is not really common because everybody tries to do something a little bit better or a little bit different. It must be really common. What we want to do different, there must be a means for doing that, and not in what is common. The thing common must be common. That's important. And third technology aspect is the portability, okay? We need to be able to have the same platform on top of different chipsets because they bring also a lot of value. So that's about the technology. Then regarding the business part, the first condition that must be absolutely fulfilled is the size of the market. It was mentioned we have 1.2 billion gateways. That's huge. Everybody agrees. Okay, so this is the kind of things that you need to be successful. Then it's required to have a consolidation. When we look at different examples, we see that there are usually 2 winners, sometimes 3, but not more. The magic number is 2. Hence, what was said about RDKB. prpl needs RDKB because this is how those things work. The market needs to have an alternative. It's bad not to have an alternative, okay? The things move better forward if the alternative exists. Then, regarding those that bring new things, that innovate, there must be a business model that is easy to understand, that they see, that can invest. They and the venture capital guys that will bring money to their companies too. And the last point is it must have an operational model that is simple too. So it cannot be something where you must spend, months discussing with many different people, exchanging I don't know how many different papers, etc., in order to put your stuff available for the users or for those that manage the platform. So that's it, those 7 points, okay? Now, coming back to our platforms, I said that there are more than just the PC and the smartphones. We have some others. So as you can see, what I did here is I put the characteristics for each of them. When it's green, it's green. So as you can see, for the PC and the smartphone, the game is over. We have clear winners. This is how it works. For game consoles, it seems that we have 3 of them. Maybe there will be some further consolidation, I don't know, but at least now it's quite clear. A few years ago, there were more players. Smart speakers, I suppose that we'll also have only two winners. Maybe Apple will be a third one. We'll see. Smart TV and the set-top box. We have at last one winner that clears to be quite evident, which is Android TV. The question is who will be the second one? There are several candidates. We'll see. But you see that they all have a very similar pattern. But, as we already said several times, and there is the home gateway, which is another candidate. And here we have many different pretenders that are possible, but no winners yet. All of us have some ideas who can be the winners, of course. And why the gateway is a candidate. It was already said, but here it's written in more details. Okay, so those that like to read, you have the answer here. Basically, because there is such a huge market, 1.2 billion home gateways in the world that the operators define, purchase, and deliver to the customers. So this is a huge potential. It's really something that companies can dream about. Then the gateway has very appealing capabilities. We mentioned several of those things. It's a device that's always on. It's always present at home. Many people say, with smartphone we can do everything. And no, because smartphone can be at home or can be somewhere else. But this device is always at home. It never moves. Okay, that's how it is. They are energy efficient more and more and very well secured. That's important because with a chain of trust, it can go up to the app level, which also brings some value to the app developers. A gateway is just a most natural hub of different connectivities. Okay, we were talking about Matter, for example. It's a good place to have such a thing, and according to all the market studies, customers don't like to have too many boxes. The best thing is to have something that does everything because they don't care about the details. Okay. We mentioned several times the sensing capabilities. This is a huge stuff that will bring a lot of potential. Another point, this is the only device that knows what are the devices that are connected. We know to some extent what those devices are doing, what are the versions of operating systems, all this kind of details. We can detect what is the printer in the network. We can detect how much this printer prints, estimate how many pages. And this kind of details, we are able to know all those things. So the potential is just huge. We can really leverage all those things. And the last point is that sometimes people say, but there's no UI, so why are we talking about the apps? So for me, an app doesn't need to have an UI. Okay, that's the first point. The second, today, nothing is really a single piece of software. Usually it's a distributed system, and when we are talking about the apps in the gateway, it doesn't mean that it's only in the gateway. You can always have another part of your solution on a smartphone, something else in the cloud, etc. So that I'm saying that just to put it very clear. So this is why the home gateway is an exceptional candidate to become a very successful and software platform in the future. We have all the ingredients. There's nothing that is missing. So Sophie said several times, it's up to us to decide that we want to be successful. Can you imagine that you create a company and the only factor for the success is your willingness to be successful? Just amazing, no? So that's it. It doesn't mean that everything is done and we are just waiting for the success. There are still some number of things that we need to do. We need to talk more about the business models for app developers, about the operational aspects for that. Those things we'll address in 2023. But what is important to understand from that is from operators' perspective, we know that we need to create conditions for third parties to have them successful, because if they are successful, then we will be successful, okay? So this is something that is very clearly understood, and this is why every time I meet somebody from a type of software company, as you, for example, I'm very happy to hear that, because this is really a moment that you guys, you need to come, talk with prpl, we need to see what is missing, and if something generic is missing, we'll add it in order to enable your business. My dream is that to show something that you develop to Orange, it will take just 5 minutes, to download and to get it running, and that's it, and not a project that takes 6 months and costs $200,000, and at the end we are not the right version of something. Okay, so it cannot be like that anymore. So this is what you are doing, guys. I really hope that if I were younger, I would really found a company for something like that. That's the last word I have about that.